Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steven. It is time to wrap up what we've been doing for the past 5-6 months here with the NFL draft. We're going to be turning our heads and our eyes, everything, our attention over to fantasy football shortly enough. So, if it wasn't clear from the title of the channel name, most of the year, about 2/3 of it, I spend looking at fantasy football. So if you're not interested in fantasy football, if you're a new subscriber who came here for the NFL draft stuff, first of all, thank you. Had a great time with y'all. Turn off the notifications if you've got them on, so that way you don't get bombarded throughout the entirety of the non-NFL draft season. But I will be back once the NFL playoffs begin, is when I start to turn more of my attention towards the NFL draft. I do try to stay a little bit up to date on things throughout the college season and whatnot, but that's when the channel will flip. So, without further ado, let's finish up the season ranking all 32 drafts compared to one another. Please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. It helps so much. It really does. So let's make this last video a little bit of a success here. Starting off with the worst draft of the draft, one that I was really excited for coming in, enjoyed to some extent picking for them in mock drafts, and at the end of the day, the Michael Penix thing just absolutely tanks this Atlanta Falcons draft. I didn't love what they did otherwise, from what I recall. It's kind of, the rest of their draft's kind of a blur for me. But yeah, at the end of the day, I ended up with a C- on that Falcons draft, which, as you can see, was really by far the worst draft. None came close. And I also want to add right now that I thought pretty much every team did a good job of drafting. In general, even this next team up did a good job with the limited capital that they had. So the NFL is doing nice work of not trading their entire draft for one pick or doing things like that. That's how you get an F, okay? If you have a 6th round pick and you take an undrafted guy, that's basically how you would get an F. The second worst draft here was the Cleveland Browns draft with a C+, B-. And then we had a group of 3 teams who all ended up with B-. By the way, also, you can find, if you want more descriptions on these teams and how they how I came to the B- draft grade, for instance, for the and the... There are videos up on my channel of each of the individual, looking at the player grades and giving a final team draft grade and just talking about each team's draft a little bit. So check those out if you want the specifics. They're done by AFC and NFC North, East, West, and South. Two divisions in each video. So out of these teams, I thought the worst one of this 3 was the Jacksonville Jaguars draft, but it's not like there's nothing to be excited about there. Then New England, of course, you got Drake May. I mean, your future is inbounds, hopefully. So this could end up being a franchise-changing draft, no doubt about that. Just didn't love what they did with the rest of it and kind of penalized them not too lightly for that. So B- there for New England, 29th worst draft, and in the bottom 5 also was the Las Vegas Raiders draft, also disappointing, not 100% their fault. They did get a little bit screwed. There are things they maybe could have done to prevent that from happening, but at the end of the day, rough draft, and I thought that they recovered well for the rest of the draft. I liked their draft in general, but not coming away with a quarterback really hurt them a lot. I guess I gave them a nod over New England, though, even though they didn't get the quarterback, just because I liked what they did with the draft compared to New England. So that's going to bring us on to my next 5 worst drafts here, and they're all B-tier drafts. So we're in, like, 1 thumbs up territory here. This is fine. These drafts, there's nothing wrong with these drafts, and this is the order that I put them in. At 27, we have the Tennessee Titans. At 26 was the Carolina Panthers. This would have liked to see a few things maybe done differently with these drafts, or as we get down to 23, Well, we'll get there. 25 was the Seattle Seahawks. This was very tough. The Titans were the easiest one for me to peg as the worst out of this group, in my opinion. Carolina was somewhat easy to put up there, but then it really became tough, actually, for Carolina, Seattle, the Jets. I knew I wanted Miami at the top of this group, and Tennessee was pretty easy for me to put at the bottom of this group fairly quickly. 25 was Seattle. 24 were the New York Jets. Seattle Jets, you could flip them. I could have made arguments either way. Those were the two that were the closest there. They're kind of tied for 24, we'll say. And then at 23 were the Miami Dolphins. Fantastic players. You look at the draft, I got them like all S's, pluses, A's, my guys. To me, my issue was, if you didn't watch the video, it comes down to the vision and them continuing to be a team who's very fragile, I think, in terms of losing a couple of pieces and or having to play in bad weather situations. I just don't think that they improved their odds of winning the Super Bowl a whole lot, although they helped them a little bit, in a way. They had a lot of losses, though, too, which is why I thought they should have done what the Buffalo Bills did with this draft and do a mini reload, and they didn't do that. They just got a bunch of backup parts, great parts, high-performance parts, but yeah, I didn't quite agree with the methodology there for their draft, which hurt significantly how they ended up getting graded. That's going to bring us on to 22 through 18 here. The top two, the Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs, B/B+ grades for those two teams. Now, I think that the Detroit Lions improved their team. Same with Kansas City to some extent, although I have some issues with the Kansas City draft myself too. Once again, you can watch those videos for those, but still both, thumbs up and a little bit more drafts. And then we really raise our thumb up all the higher for the next three drafts. B+ is for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas Cowboys in at 19, and the Minnesota Vikings leading the charge for the B+ graded drafts. That's going to bring us on to the next five. 17, these are all B+, A-. At 17, we got the New Orleans Saints. At 16, the Los Angeles Rams. At 15, the New York Giants. At 14, the Denver Broncos. And in at 13, the Buffalo Bills. So, as I explained, I thought the Buffalo Bills approached this draft magnificently in terms of the, how they approached it. I really liked what they did, the mini reload that I wanted the Miami Dolphins to also do. But this was almost exactly what I wanted Buffalo to do. There were a couple of tweaks if I were the GM that would have happened, but otherwise I support what they did. And then, Denver Broncos, you get your quarterback at 12. This is what I always said that they would have to do. And a strong draft, otherwise bereft of a little bit of capital, but made the best out of it. I thought this was, all in all, a fine offseason for the Broncos, and hopefully the page has begun to turn for the future. But they had no choice. They had no choice at pick 12. Okay, anything else would have been an absolute failure. They did not come away with a quarterback in this draft. Absolute failure, and that's why for months now, for the most part, I've just at pick 12 been saying it's Bo Nix. New York Giants, really strong day 1 and 2. Didn't love day 3, but you come away with 3 great players, and it's a fine draft. And then the Rams and New Orleans to wrap that up. Rams got a lot of picks. I didn't like this draft as much as I liked last year's, but I think I trust them. We're still heading in the right direction there. And New Orleans, they did well with what they had. That's going to bring us on to the next 4 teams here. A- was the Los Angeles Chargers, all on their own with that grade. So that was easy to fit them in. Then we had 3 A-tiered graded drafts. I keep saying tier, and I really mean grade. Tiered, whatever. The Washington Commanders, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Chicago Bears. All 3 strong drafts here. Really, you're super excited if you're a Chicago Bears fan. It was almost a flawless draft for me outside of that punter pick. I didn't like that. I did not like that. But otherwise, excellent. And draft of a little bit of capital as well. And then Indianapolis Colts. Really loved the draft. Super strong. Washington Commanders. Didn't love it as much, and that's why they're at the bottom of this group. It was pretty easy for me to put them at the bottom. It was more of a race for number 9 there between the Colts and Chicago. But very strong draft. You get your quarterback of the future and all that. I liked the players were great. It was coming back to like the Miami thing where like I disagree with exactly the route that they went. Despite getting great players, I thought that you needed to support your quarterback, your new quarterback, your young quarterback with a little bit more around them, possibly a better, higher wide receiver pick, but more so it came down to that offensive line, not immediately getting him another guy there going up and getting like a Jordan Morgan, something to help fortify that O-line. So now we are approaching the top 5 drafts, graded drafts, and at 8 and 7, we have my A/A pluses, borderline A pluses. First off, we have the Houston Texans with a very strong draft, and it was a Houston Texans draft. I thought they got pretty much, all players that just seemed like natural fits and did a great job with that. And then the Baltimore Ravens, kind of a similar thing here. As always, they just tend to nail the draft process, and they stayed patient and true to their board, and everything worked out well for them. What can you do? So also loved that draft. Then we have our 2 A pluses, the Green Bay Packers and San Francisco 49ers. And this was where I went and I changed my grade retroactively on the Green Bay Packers before. If you watched my AFC, NFC North grading video, I mentioned that. It was while preparing for this, I went and I was like, am I being a homer here with the Green Bay Packers draft? Because I did have so many E's and D's and F's in those mid-rounds, even though they were all pluses and all my guys. And I think that not only did they have the most players drafted, but they might have had the most my guys drafted for their team, the Green Bay Packers. But I went and I looked, and I compared them to the San Francisco 49ers, and I said, which one's better? It was San Francisco 49ers. Then I compared them to the Ravens, to Houston, just to make sure I was okay with the A+, and I didn't need to knock them down even a little bit lower, and I didn't. The A+ stands for my Green Bay Packers. Thought it was a fantastic draft. Not perfect, but fantastic. And same with the San Francisco 49ers draft, just like Houston. It was a San Francisco 49ers draft. They stayed true to their board, I guess just like Green Bay. These teams perennially, now Houston's in this conversation, it seems like, do great with the draft process. And let's see if there's any surprises in the top 4 drafts. We have 2 A+/S minuses. We have an S-, and we have an S-/S. An almost perfect draft there at number 1. So let's start out by revealing my number 4 and 3 drafts. And starts off at number 4 with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think I'm probably liked this draft more than others. They're kind of been a team for the last couple of years where, not to the extent of the Indianapolis Colts, but they tend to be drafting my guys that I really like. And so the Indianapolis Colts, their draft, really have liked them for the last couple of years. For years, Kansas City was always drafting consistently guys who I really wanted the Packers to draft my guys before getting more heavily involved in this process. And look at what that turned out for their defense. So to me, bright future ahead for the Cincinnati Bengals after these last solid couple of drafts. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers was my 3rd best draft. I know this one is going to be pretty common. This was an absolutely fantastic draft. I did have a little bit of struggle between which of these two to put higher on this board, but at the end of the day, the Steelers did just such a fantastic job of essentially how I described the Ravens draft, but even better. You can't keep letting the Steelers get away with this, and that's going to be a theme for the next pick. The 2nd best draft for me with an S-, the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely fantastic draft. You can't keep letting them get away with this. What are we doing, league? Players drop, they take them. It's just how it is. Fantastic draft for the Eagles. Thought it was flawless, almost. What else can you say about it? And that's going to finish off another draft where I thought it was pretty flawless. Had a lot of capital. S-, S tier. draft grade for the Arizona Cardinals, my number 1 draft of the entire class. So please like, comment, subscribe the video. I hope, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Who was your favorite draft? How did you think your team did? Do you like it or not? Like I started the video off with, I think all 32 teams, I think 31 of 32 teams had very good drafts. It's just how good was it is really ultimately what it comes down to. And that's why there's only 2 that were even close to sitting in the C tier for the drafts. So there you go. Peace out, everybody.